Dedenne was one of the most powerful cards ever printed in the Pokemon TCG, and that statement isn't nearly as hyperbolic as it sounds. This rat was played in almost every deck since it came out, and was the main contributor of the draw-heavy format we found ourselves in. However, with rotation on the horizon, we will soon be living in a post-Dedenne world, one where the term discard draw 6 are words that are only whispered in legend. This creates a problem for a lot of decks, namely, what's going to be my engine for drawing after the rodent rotates? Well, fear not. I've come bearing 5 engines that could satiate your card drawing needs.
You look pretty shady in that peacock costume of yours.
Inteleon Shady Dealings. I remember when this set of cards came out and people were hyping it up so much. I mean, Alolan Ninetales saw play, so something where you could grab any trainer for evolving a 1-prizer was amazing. But giving it to both its first and second stages made that utility seem absolutely broken. The problem was, well, Inteleon's ability almost always got you what you needed. You still needed to evolve it. Being able to draw 6 fresh cards on turn 1 was a lot more valuable in the high-paced decks at the time. Post-rotation though, this set of cards is pretty amazing, especially if you have a Rapid Strike deck. You have a Sobble that can get you 3 basic Rapid Strike Pokemon on turn 1 if you're going second, and Bedrizzile that will always get you the pieces you need to get going. Compare that with the amazing new Inteleon that snipes 2 damage counters and fixes a lot of decks' math, and you have an amazing engine that a lot of decks can utilize. The problem is, really, its size. You're almost always going to want to play a 4-4-4 line of some variation of these guys, and as some decks can accommodate that, as their attackers are self-sufficient and just need the right trainers to get it set up. A lot of decks are going to have trouble finding what to cut to fit these pieces in. Plus, many decks don't appreciate the extra 2 damage counters nearly as much as others. Still, if you can fit it in and are worried about Path to the Peak, this engine is fantastic as a consistency booster.
Look at it's freaking bats.
Crobat V, an old partner to the soon-to-be-lost Dedenne. Crobat may very well have its time to shine after its electric friend rotates. Slapdown Draw 6 is still a very powerful effect in decks that can utilize the resources in their hands quickly, and the searchability from Quick Ball makes it a consistent find in almost any deck it's splashed into. Plus, it's pretty lightweight, only taking up 2 or 3 spots in your entire deck. I see this as what a lot of decks are probably going to choose, but it does come with its share of drawbacks. For one, as any Eternatus player will tell you, sometimes your hand simply has more than 6 unplayable cards in it, meaning that it's not always going to be the out to a bad hand that you'd want it to be. Also, its once per turnness limits its explosive potential, a problem that was mitigated a lot when it was paired up with the Rat. Finally, Crobat is still a 2-prizer that sits on your bench and that's just waiting to be bossed up or sniped for game. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great card, but less great when it's the only draw you're getting for that turn.
But according to my research, rainbows are supposed to look like this.
Just playing some supporters. I don't know if you know this, but Professor's Research is a really, really good card. Seriously, we have that, Marnie, Birdkeeper, Karina's Focus, Melody, Bruno, Copycat, and Dan, I guess? Point is, we have a lot of draw supporters that decks can take advantage of. So many, in fact, that you could probably just run waifu cards to draw all the cards you need. And yes, I do think Magnolia is a waifu card, and anyone who disagrees with that can fight me. That being said, you do lose out on power supporters like Boss's Orders, Cheryl, or Phoebe? I don't know. If you're dealing with those pesky Decidueye decks. This means that other decks with Pokemon-based draw might be able to clap your cheeks as they gust around your squishy basics. Regardless, as far as consistent draw goes, you'll probably be fine. Just a little less consistent than most other options on this list, but fine.
That's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Cinccino. Cinccino has made do with having virtually no place in the metagame for the past format. As well, having Zoroark GX's ability is nifty on paper, its ability combined with the stellar attack is really what made that card what it was. That ability alone does not an amazing card make. However, it can be a pretty good card for decks desperately looking for Pokemon draw. This card, Draw 2, is still pretty solid, especially if you can get 4 going on your bench. And some decks that appreciate things being in the discard pile will surely be happy to have the extra draw power. The downsides are pretty apparent though. A frail stage 1 that takes 8 spots up in your deck is a rough trade-off for having consistent draw, and discard Draw 2 isn't that good in the grand scheme of things. Still, if you benefit from the discard and you don't need the bench space, this fluffy fellow will do you just fine. Now last, but certainly not least,
俺は常に2人だ。
Shadow Rider VMax. Can we just talk about this card for a minute? Like, what was Pokemon thinking when they let this monster be printed? It's got the aforementioned amazing Zoroark ability, but instead of discarding, it's energy acceleration. So it's like that plus Malamar. God, I wish that were me. Not only that, they thought that having the attack that does 30 damage for every psychic attached to all of your Pokemon, meaning that you can stack it everywhere to boost your attack, was a good idea in conjunction with that ability. It's insane. Needless to say, if you're running a Psychic type deck, you should be using this bad boy for all your drawing needs. Hand sizes that make even unknown hand players blush are common for turn 3, and Fog Crystal allows you to get any piece that you'd want, no problem. If you're not running a Psychic deck, there's really no point in running this, but if you are, I can think of no greater draw engine that you could have played at any point in Pokemon TCG's history. So play it. So what draw engine's right for you? I don't really know. It's really gonna depend on the deck that you're running. All I know is that there's plenty of options despite the rat being exterminated. And I, for one, am looking forward to seeing what a format with so many diverse draw options is gonna look like. Now if you excuse me, I've got a Sylveon video to write.